You think being a good man is enough. You show up every day. You listen. You stay loyal. You don't cheat. You don't disappear. You do everything you were told a man is supposed to do. And still, one day, you feel it. Not a fight, not a breakup, just a quiet shift you can't explain. She's sitting right next to you. Same couch, same house, same life. But her mind is somewhere else. She's scrolling, you're talking. She nods at the right moment, says, yeah, says, but she's not there. And that's when confusion hits harder than pain, because you start replaying everything. What did I do wrong? What did I miss? When did this start? You didn't betray her. You didn't abandon her. You didn't stop caring, at least not in any way you can name. And that's what slowly eats you alive, because no one prepares you for this kind of loss. The kind where she doesn't leave, she doesn't explode, she doesn't say goodbye, she just fades right in front of you. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you'll see the exact moment most good men lose her. Not through betrayal, not through cruelty, but through something far more subtle. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Let me tell you a story. You wake up early, you make coffee, you try not to wake her. You've been doing this for years. At first, she loved it. She'd smile and say, "You're too good to me, Atikor." She'd kiss your cheek. She'd tell her friends how lucky she was. And you believed her. Why wouldn't you? You were solid, reliable, safe. You became the man society told you to become. And slowly, almost invisibly, that same goodness stopped working. Here's the first truth no one tells you. Women don't lose interest in good men overnight. They lose interest quietly, internally, long before you notice. It starts with a feeling she can't name. Not anger, not hatred, just restlessness. She still laughs at your jokes, still sleeps next to you, still says, "I'm fine." But something inside her is shrinking, and she doesn't know why. Think about how desire actually works. Not the movie version, not the Instagram quotes. Real desire needs tension. It needs polarity. It needs movement. And here's where good men get confused. You think love means removing friction, making life smooth, predictable, comfortable. You think, if I make her life easier, she'll want me more. That sounds logical. It's also where things begin to die. Let me paint you a picture. You stop challenging her, not because you're weak, but because you're kind. You don't want arguments. You don't want stress. So you let things slide. Her opinions become facts. Her moods become weather systems you adapt to. Her unhappiness becomes your responsibility. And you tell yourself you're being mature. What you're really doing is disappearing. Slowly, politely, lovingly. She doesn't wake up one day and think, "I want a bad man." That's a myth. What she feels is something deeper. She feels unchallenged, unmoved, unseen in a strange way, because desire doesn't come from being agreed with. It comes from being met, from friction, from presence, from a man who occupies space without apologizing. And when that disappears, confusion sets in. So she starts asking herself dangerous questions. Why do I feel bored? Why don't I feel excited anymore? Is something wrong with me? She scrolls social media. She sees couples traveling, laughing, living loudly. And suddenly, your quiet goodness feels like a cage. Not because it is, but because it hasn't evolved. Here's another story. A man I knew, married 10 years, faithful, hardworking. He thought love was sacrifice, so he sacrificed everything. His hobbies, his edge, his opinions, his friends. His entire identity collapsed into one role: husband. And one day she said, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." That sentence destroyed him, because he gave her everything, and that was the problem. Women don't fall out of love because you're too kind. They fall out of love because kindness replaced direction, because niceness replaced strength. because safety replaced desire. And no one explains how that happens. Let's slow down. This isn't about domination, or being cold, or playing games. It's about polarity. Masculine energy moves forward. It chooses. It leads. Feminine energy responds. It feels. It flows. When you abandon your direction to orbit hers, something breaks. She feels it before she understands it. She feels like she's leading the relationship. And leadership doesn't feel sexy when it's forced. So she tests you. Not consciously, not maliciously. She challenges you. Pushes boundaries, withdraws affection. She wants to feel you again, to feel resistance, presence, certainty. And when you respond by trying harder, explaining more, apologizing more, giving more, her attraction drops further. Not because you're wrong, but because you're negotiating desire. And desire doesn't negotiate. This is where resentment grows. On both sides. You start thinking, after all I've done for you. She starts thinking, why do I feel trapped? Neither of you are villains. You're just running incompatible strategies. Another hard truth. Good men often confuse being needed with being wanted. Being needed feels important, heroic, meaningful. But being wanted feels electric. And electricity doesn't come from obligation. It comes from choice, from tension, from a man who has a life outside the relationship, a man who doesn't disappear to be loved. Watch what happens when a man loses himself. He stops surprising her, stops evolving, stops risking. He becomes predictable, and predictability feels safe. But safety alone doesn't create longing, so she starts remembering who she was before routines, before roles, before expectations. And that memory whispers to her at night, not loudly, just enough to hurt. Here's the part no one likes to hear. Attraction isn't fair. It doesn't reward effort. It doesn't honor sacrifice. It responds to energy, presence, confidence, direction. You can be a good man and still be unattractive. That doesn't make you bad. It means you were never taught the full equation, and society doesn't help. You're told, just be nice, like just communicate, just be supportive. No one tells you, and don't abandon yourself. No one tells you, like your spine matters. When women lose interest in good men, it's rarely about another man. It's about a missing self. She doesn't want chaos. She wants aliveness. And aliveness comes from growth, from friction, from a man who says, this is who I am. Even if that risks losing her, especially if that risks losing her. Think about the men women describe with intensity. They're not perfect. They're not always nice. But they're there, rooted, grounded, moving somewhere. They don't dissolve to be loved. They invite love into a life already in motion. So what happens next? If nothing changes, she withdraws further. Emotionally first, physically later. You feel it in the silence, in the way she doesn't ask questions anymore, in the way your touch lingers unanswered. And you panic. You try to fix it with words, but desire doesn't live in explanations. It lives in experience. Here's the turning point. The moment a good man stops trying to be chosen and starts choosing himself again, not aggressively, not bitterly, but honestly. He remembers his values, his boundaries, his direction. He stops negotiating his existence. And something shifts. Sometimes she feels it and leans back in. Sometimes she doesn't. That's the risk. But either way, the man comes back to life. And that's the real win. So if you're watching this and wondering what you did wrong, maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe you just forgot yourself. Maybe you were taught that love meant self-erasure. It doesn't. Love needs two whole people, not one person shrinking to keep the peace. Women don't lose interest in good men because goodness is unattractive. They lose interest when goodness has no backbone, when kindness has no direction, when love has no edge. Be good, but be there. Be kind, but be rooted. Love her, but don't disappear for her. Because the moment you vanish, so does the desire. And no one tells you that until it's almost too late.